Over the past 30 years or so, the modern game of cricket has undergone many changes, but has experienced some wonderful moments. Hello and welcome, my name is Ken Sutcliffe. With more cricket being played than ever before, many of the old milestones have been surpassed. 10,000 test runs, 500 test wickets. In this program, we'll take you back through some of these moments and along the way, pay tribute to some of the great players of the modern game. Here at the Bradman Museum in Bowral, we can reflect on the batting feats of a man a nation came to know simply as the Don. His record stands above all others. His accomplishments are the yardstick by which all others are measured. No one has come close. But every now and then, a player comes along and revives his memory with an achievement of their own. One such player is the former Australian Test captain, Mark Taylor.
It wasn't so much the score, it was the fact that I was able to bat that long. I always prided myself as an opening batsman to try and bat through a day of first-class cricket, whether it be a test match or a game for New South Wales. And I was able to do that a number of times. But to bat through 2 days, I thought was something I'm very proud of. It was an achievement which I never thought I'd be able to do, particularly in Pakistan. So that's why that innings probably sticks out in my mind more so than most.
Short again. Suddenly Taylor has just found his right level. He's found his confidence.
We were all looking forward to seeing this Shoaib Akhtar bowl and seeing what sort of pace he was going to generate. We knew the wicket was a fantastic batting wicket. Tubby started pretty scratchy. I think he got dropped twice before he made 50, and one of them was an absolute dolly at short leg. And then I've never seen him play better. Like punching balls through the covers, off the back foot, with the fielders there. His placement was perfect, and he had all his old power back from 1989. Brilliant.
And he's been brought back on into the attack, and the first ball has been hit for 6. And Taylor looking for his 100, and that's far too easy a way to bring it up. So well played, Mark Taylor. He gets the standing applause of his Australian teammates.
All his shots were working. The Pakistanis had no answer to him.
Back and off the back foot, straight down the ground. He really is hitting it so sweetly. Front foot, back foot. And that's the double 100, the second time in his career. His teammates rise to him. 9 years since his last double 100.
I got close to, I think it was 219, which was my old highest score, and also Michael Slater's highest score. And myself and Slats, good mates, opening partners. So I came off at lunchtime on day 2 when I was very close to that score, and I said, Slats, I think Slats said to me, Mark, are you going to go past our score? And I said, I am, and I'm going to give you something to chase.
Inside it. There's 3 times with 3 different shots he's played square with the wicket in this over.
I felt fantastic until I got to about, I'd say 280, 290, and then I started to feel a bit weary because I think I started to think of making a Test 300. And I knew from my knowledge of cricket history that Test 300s don't come around all that often. So I had an opportunity to do something which I'm sure every batsman would love to do. And I was starting to get nervous. All of a sudden my legs started to feel tired, and I thought, am I going to make it?
Mushtaq Ahmed to bowl. Taylor on strike on 298. And he gets it through. So Mark Taylor will bring up his 300. He raises his left fist in exhilaration.
I remember sort of going up, what do you do now? I've made a few hundreds, so I know you've got to raise your bat, take your hat off, and that sort of stuff. But here was 300. And I remember thinking to myself, it's the first time I'd sort of started to lose a little bit of control of myself when I'd batted for nearly 2 days at that stage.
And what a moment for Mark Taylor. What a moment for Australian cricket. It's been a long time since an Australian's made 300.
There wasn't a huge crowd there, but for me it was a very big moment because I'd achieved something, as I said, that I didn't think I'd ever be able to achieve. And then I started thinking about Sir Donald Bradman 304, Bob Kemp was 307, and Bob Simpson 311, and Sir Donald Bradman 334, because I knew they were the only 4 Australian scores of over 300. So I knew that from a history.
There they are, poised on the balcony, the Australians, for this moment in history. Takes it off the hip. So he joins Sir Donald Bradman as Australia's highest scorer in Test cricket.
And I end up back on strike for the last 2 balls on 334 not out. And I tried to score runs off them, which I'm sure is exactly what the late Sir Donald Bradman would have done in the same situation. I was out there batting, trying to score runs. They were both well fielded by Ijaz Ahmed, who had fielded very poorly throughout the day, but all of a sudden kept me on 334 overnight.
He can't get it past. And that's the end of the day's play, with him sitting on 334. Being congratulated by Ricky Ponting, first there by Ijaz Ahmed, by all the Pakistani players.
And then I spent a fairly sleepless night trying to think about what I was going to do. And it wasn't until about 2 o'clock in the morning that I decided to declare. I think our score was 599 for 4, and I thought it was time to try and win the game.
Mark Taylor, captain of Australia, 334. A score achieved only once previously by Don Bradman at Headingley in 1930.
In Australian cricket, one fast bowler stands alone in the modern era. Many regard him as the greatest ever. The Dennis Lillee story is well known, but one of his greatest feats came in a match that many of us don't know about. It was a one-day game between Western Australia and Queensland in 1976.
Good morning from the Western Australian Cricket Ground, Perth, where play is just about to begin in the second semi-final of the 1976-77 Gillette Cup.
It was over in the West, and the people in the West, of course, got the shock of their lives when they were bowled out for 77.
And that's bowled.
Out.
And out. Ooh, that must be close.
Gotta be out.
Yes, LBW.
He could be out.
Could be out.
He's out.
Yes,
Caught
an easy
Richards.
catch by Richards.
Bowled him. Beautifully fielded by Dimmock. And that is out, and what a tragedy. Everything has gone wrong for Western Australia today.
Western Australia bowled out for 77 by Queensland, and it looked as if it was all over.
I thought we could win it. We had Viv Richards, myself, and 2 international batters in the lineup. You'd think that perhaps one of us get some runs and we'd be able to win that game, but it didn't reckon on probably one of the great performers of all time, and that is Dennis Keith Lillee.
But he's gone without scoring, and it's a good catch by Alan Jones. What a dramatic morning this has been, this Gillette Cup second semi-final. Lillee caught Jones, bowled Greg Chappell without scoring.
Rodney Marsh was the captain of the team, and I remember Rod telling me the story afterwards. He said, we're in the dressing room, we're just getting ready to go, and I was about to sort of say something to the team like, come on, we can still win this game. When, and I can't tell you completely the story because this is a family program, but you'll get the gist of it with Dennis. But apparently he leapt up before Rodney and he said, we can win this so-and-so game, and just marched out of the door, went out onto the ground before the captain, led the Western Australian side out there before the captain. Rodney Marsh was sort of back in the background. Dennis just charged out onto the ground and picked up the ball, and Rodney said the rest of the team, when they heard this from Dennis and they just saw him go, he said, you've suddenly felt in the room that there was a chance that they could win this game.
We've got the side of Dennis Lillee measuring out his run, warming up, ready to take up the fight. And if West Australia are going to get up at all, it's going to be through the strong right arm of Dennis Lillee. But it's Dennis Lillee to Viv Richards.
The man that he really wanted to get out because of the way he scored his runs, how quickly he scored them, was Viv Richards. So it became a battle between Viv Richards and Dennis Lillee.
How do you do, Viv? Nice to have you in Perth, Dennis said as he let a bouncer go.
He charged in and he bowled, the first ball was a bouncer, the second ball was a bouncer.
There's another bouncer, and that was a much better one, and Dennis Lillee is obviously not going to give up this one without a fight, because there's a test on here, you know, there's a test of supremacy. Dennis Lillee still considered perhaps the best bowler in the world, and many consider Viv Richards the best batsman.
I mean, one of them was a rip snorter, the other three were just bouncers. And Viv, I think, was just a little bit cautious about the one that was a good one. And it was still on its way up when it got to me.
Oops.
And that's a big bouncer by Lillee then. Viv Richards going for the hook, but it was much too late as it flew by, and Rod Marsh, as you saw on the screen, had to get up high to take it.
We asked the question, Bobby, will the umpires warn Dennis Lillee for bowling too many bounces on over, 3 out of 3 now?
He'll have to be brave in Perth to do that, I think, Bill.
The thing that I remember the most was the challenge against Viv Richards. I mean, and here's an indication of how stupid administrators are. You know, they've taken the bouncer out of the limited overs game. I see that they are now talking about bringing it back in at 1 per over. But here's Dennis Lillee, 4 bouncers on the trot.
4. He's got to be warned. What's the umpire? He's moved across, and he's warning Dennis Lillee. Yes, quite right.
Dennis obviously bowled them on purpose, but because the pitch was slightly damp, I think Dennis said to the umpire, Don Hawkes, I'm not trying to, but my foot's slipping a little bit, and I'll try and keep him up. Having no intention whatsoever to change the way he was going to bowl that day anyway.
That was well up there.
Dennis had got him going, you know, and it was just marvellous cricket. And you know, to me, that's the excitement of the game of cricket. And it's certainly when you're a commentator and you've got a champion fast bowler against a champion batsman and they just lock horns. I mean, that is a fantastic scenario.
Dennis, in typical Dennis fashion, just sort of continued down the pitch and kicked the stump. And I thought that was just very symbolic of, you know, what had happened and what was about to happen.
And the winner on that encounter is Dennis Lillee.
And look at the
crowd's
West
gone mad.
Australians and the crowd. They've gone wild. They think they're in there with a chance.
The noise that emanated from that crowd, and it wasn't a Melbourne Cricket Ground crowd, was just incredible. But it was a very, very special battle. And of course, Lillee went on to bowl him out and win the match for Western Australia.
Out.
Yes, and that's well caught there. Magnificently caught. And another hook, and he's once again Greg Chappell staying for the decision.
Well, he's got 7 balls to wrap up this match. And if ever men in Australia could bowl out 2 tail-enders, it's Dennis Lillee.
Oh, and giving it plenty of
room. Run out! To run out, yes! He's out! Oh dear, McLean ran out. Sure, wouldn't respond to McLean's call, and tragedy for Queensland.
It was one of those games, I suppose. You know, we've all played in a few low-scoring games, and often, you know, you think just because you've bowled the opposition out for a low score that you should win the game. But that was one day when I wasn't all that confident with Dennis Lillee at the other end that we were going to do it.
And he's hit that, he's out! Caught in the gully, it's all over! Caught in the gully, so Western Australia bowl Queensland out for 62, an unbelievable performance. And what a cricketer, Dennis Lillee, as the children pour onto the ground. Dennis Lillee, 4 wickets, won this game off his own bat by bowling Richards in the first over. He picked up Ogilvie and Chappell and finished off the game with Shiller being caught in the gully, and Western Australia win with Queensland all out for 62, Bobby Simpson.
Well, what an incredible game and what an incredible finish with the people pouring onto this ground to congratulate the West Australian team, and well they might do, because they've responded magnificently to this task which everyone thought was quite beyond them. But what an amazing finish, what an amazing match, and the hero of the game must be Dennis Lillee, my man of the match.
Back in 1977, Dennis Lillee featured in another match of enormous historical significance. It commemorated the first test between Australia and England, and it proved to be even more memorable.
Certainly for a lot of us that played for England, it remains a match that is right up there with the very best.
It was probably in many ways, even though there was 45 runs difference in the scores, it was still the test that I preferred playing in rather than any other test that I played in.
There was a different feel about it, and the whole atmosphere, the whole week was very different, and it was a very unique test match, and it turned out to be a unique test match on the field as well.
That's out. LBW, the first wicket to John Lever.
Out.
And that's a brilliant catch.
He's out. Caught by Tony Greig, and very well caught.
Hold him.
He's gone. 9 down. Greg Chapman's out.
We got bowled out for 120 odd on the first day, and most people thought we were in a bit of strife, and I don't think we thought we were sitting pretty, but I didn't feel we were out of the game. I knew that if we bowled well, I think we'd taken a couple of wickets on the first night, so I knew if we bowled well the next day, we could at least keep them down to a score around our score. In fact, we finished up with a first innings lead of 30 odd, I think.
And that's out. Magnificent ball from Dennis Lillee.
There's an appeal, and Randall is out. Caught Marsh, bowled Lillee.
And he's gone off the glove. And the 8th wicket is down for 78.
Good ball, but can't
And given out.
There were other things in that match that one will never forget. Rick McCosker, for example, coming in to bat and then getting smashed on the head and breaking his jaw.
And he's out, and he's also hurt. He's pulled that onto his face, and it's gone down onto the stumps, so he's certainly out, but he is in a bad way out there, Rick McCosker.
So he came back from hospital, and I mean, you've all seen the vision, you know what he looked like. I mean, it looked very ordinary. But he's a gutsy player and a team man, and I knew that if required, if I asked him, he'd probably do it. And I went up to him and I said, mate, do you feel that you can go out there? We need you to go out there and just try and hang in there for a while and get us a few more runs. And he didn't hesitate.
I went straight to Willis and said, look, let him have it. I mean, if he wants to come out here, this is the way this is. And he did. He let him have it. McCosker never blinked an eyelid. He knew it was going to happen to him. He got bounced again. So there was no quarter given. And that was special.
Hooks has lofted this one, and it lands 5 yards inside the boundary. Very well timed shot. Hooksy was on fire. I mean, I think he got 5 centuries in 6 innings or something like that. He was in this rare vein of form, and that got him selected in the centenary test. That's a very good sweep shot. Underwood has quite a chase from at the square leg, and it's into the fence for 4.
I always thought I had a chance. I tossed it up outside off stump a little bit, and he blazed away as a youngster does, and hit the gap every time. He played superbly.
That's a magnificent cover drive, beating Barlow, and it'll go into the fence for 4 more.
I'd like to say that I won the battle with David Hooks, but I didn't. I get reminded of that on a very regular basis. He hit me for 5 consecutive 4s.
And Hooks has put this away past mid-wicket, and there's his first half-century in Test cricket, and what a way to bring it up. 4 4s in a row. That MCG was just buzzing to have, a young kid, 20, I think he just turned 21, and here he is belting a guy who the Australians loved to hate at that stage, Tony Greig. He'd been out here in 74-5, and when he was hitting 4s off Dennis Lillee, he was signalling 4. And Greggy went out of his way, I'm sure, to get the Australian crowds going, and he got them going all right. And for them to see David Hooks hitting the 5 4s in a row off Tony Greig, the crowd loved it, and I don't think I've ever heard a bigger buzz at the MCG. Beats cover again. Barlow chasing. And it's into the fence for his 5th run. 5 4s from 5 balls.
And that was the turning point in the Test match as far as I'm concerned. All of a sudden it made those of us in the dressing room realised that all the gremlins were gone from the wicket. It was a pretty good batting wicket and we needed to make some runs.
And there's Rodney Marsh's 50, with a very fine lofted shot back over Chris Ould's head.
As far as the Australians were concerned, of course, a tremendous milestone as well for Rodney Marsh. We always thought he was a bit of a slogger, but the truth of the matter is on that day, he really did turn it on to get 100.
He's got an inside edge, and that is Rodney Marsh's 100. He's the first Australian wicketkeeper ever to make 100 against England.
I remember Notty coming up to me and saying, "Do you realise how significant this is?" Because he was obviously a wicketkeeper into the significance of scoring 100 for one's country, and as a wicketkeeper, and of course it was a tremendous occasion. And I personally think that it was the innings and the innings along with the partnerships that went with it that actually swung things a bit. Because, you know, until such time as those partnerships started to happen with Marsh and Walters in the second innings, we really looked as if we would win the match.
That's a lovely shot. He's a good driver, young Randall.
Yes, I tend to think of the Centenary Test in terms of Derek Randall, first and foremost, and I'm a bit biased there because, the Aussies had never heard of him. This was a new face for Australia, and he made over 170. And I will never forget this kid, a miner's son, used to discipline and had scored a lot of 40s for us in India and wasn't kicking on, and it was a source of frustration for me. And I pushed him into the corner just before that second innings, and I said, "Look, the time has come. You just have to make a big score here, otherwise, you know, we really have to start questioning your ability to kick on. And so do something about it, otherwise you may not be in the side." And he responded brilliantly to that. And you know, anyone who saw him play, anyone who remembers him doffing his cap to Lily, which was cheeky, really cheeky, but that's the sort of character it was, a bit of a comic. It was a wonderful innings, played almost every shot in the book. The ones that we remember best, I think, are the hook shots, the pull shots. They went screaming away to the boundary, and he did it against the best fast bowler in the world.
Randall's hooked very well.
I remember bowling to him late in his innings. He was past 100 and we needed a wicket, and I was getting a bit frustrated. And I got one that must have hit a crack or something, and it's cut back and gone between bat and pad. There was a noise. I wasn't sure whether he hit it or not. I appealed. Rod Marsh dived forward, and I looked around to see Tom Brooks had his finger up, and it was a wicket that we needed. So I sort of rushed up to Rod, fairly excited about the fact that we'd got the breakthrough. And Rod said, "He's not out." I said, "What do you mean he's not out? Tom's just given him out." He said, "He didn't hit it." I said, "Well, that's not our problem." And he said, "Tom's thought he hit it, that's enough for me." He said, "Well, actually it didn't carry."
What's happening here?
I said, "Oh, that's a bit different." So we called Derek back, and he came back and finished off 178, I think, and put him into a position where at afternoon tea time they should have won the test match.
Randall came out and played the innings of his life, for sure and certain. And you know, had it not been for Dennis's performance, where he tried every trick in the book in that game. He bowled fast, he bowled cutters, he bowled swingers, he bowled slower balls, he bowled the whole lot.
Oh, that's got to be very close. Yes, indeed. And that was a good delivery. Oh, that's a fine delivery, and he's out. And it's bowled in.
It wasn't a good pitch for fast bowlers, but Dennis Lillee found a way to take wickets there. What did he get? I think 11 in the Centenary Test, and I think the fact that they chaired him off, you know, after that Centenary Test, I think was a tribute to not only his ability but to that great determination, because it had turned out a pretty good pitch. And I mean, there must have been times when I'm sure Greg, as captain, thought that England were actually going to make the runs in that second innings.
The fact that we were able to win the test match with exactly the same margin as the first ever test match between Australia and England just topped off what was a fairy tale test match.
And that's got to be out, must be out. And that is the end of the Centenary Test match. Dennis Lillee has taken 11 wickets in what could conceivably be his last Test match.
Cricket coaches repeatedly emphasise to their players the importance of partnerships in the game. One of Australia's recent players must have listened to that advice very carefully, because in his short Test career he has featured in a couple of crackers. One that will be remembered for years by all who saw it happened in Hobart in 1999.
Oh, he's gone across a long way, and it is a pair for Ricky Ponting. So half the Australian side are now back in the pavilion.
Only two teams in 122 years had made more than 369 to win a match in the fourth innings at Test level. And you wouldn't have given a brass razoo for Australia's chances when Adam Gilchrist joined Justin Langer, 5 for 126, and they looked as though they were gone and forgotten. It turned out to be one of the most exhilarating partnerships I've ever seen in any form of cricket. Wonderful stroke play and carrying the attack to the opposition. It was simply superb.
Shot.
When you consider what they were up against a very good attack. They were up against a situation where it was all lost. And from what I can gather, it was Langer who kept saying, you never know, you'll never know. Let's play to lunch, you'll never know. Let's get to tea, you never know what'll happen after that. And of course, down the other end, that's all that Gilchrist needed. I mean, he just carried play. He made most of the runs, but the man who sort of held it together, who kept looking at that end result, I think was Justin Langer.
And that one's absolutely smacked through mid-wicket. And he just keeps doing that, hitting balls into the gap. What were you both feeling and thinking as you walked out to bat on that final day?
We didn't walk out there thinking we needed 181 runs. It was more, I guess, 10-minute periods, and that's what I was looking at, the clock, and JL was looking at sort of breaking it down to 10-run sort of sectors.
I said to Gilly, you know, you just never know what could happen here, mate. And then I said to him, mate, we could make Test cricket history here. It was almost the sort of thing we muck around about in the change room or something, but it was in a Test match, and because we were mates and because we were nice and relaxed about it, I think that was a big help for us. I certainly knew exactly what I had to do to give my best attention to every ball at a time, and we really did break it down to one ball at a time. Shot this ball now, come on. Come on, Gil, this ball.
Come on, Alf! Just trying to do our job was the main thing, and you know, they were obviously getting more and more frustrated the longer we went on, and I guess we used that to our advantage. We knew that and sensed that.
Certainly Justin Langer, he was at one stage, we all thought, caught behind. He nicked one and it went through the keeper, but you know, in keeping with the way things are these days, he stayed.
Well, it was a fiery time, I think. You know, at the end of the day, you know, I'm sure to this moment I didn't hit it. They were sure to this moment I did hit it.
Come on!
So, and the umpire was sure at the moment I didn't hit it as well.
Well, that's a very quick bouncer and a very accurate one. All it brings is a smile.
I couldn't believe it. It was a pretty quick ball and pretty nasty, and then I went down to try and make sure JL didn't lose focus, don't get into a slanging match, and I just saw the grin and one of his fangs missing, and he just came down and said he just really, really loves this stuff, and with a big grin on his face, and I thought, that's crazy, he must be nuts. But it was enough to inspire me and keep me going.
Straight down the ground, that'll be it. What a beautiful shot. And that is a superb century. His first in his career.
Yeah! Come on! Come on!
I thought, well, I don't want to over-celebrate it. It's a personal milestone, but we're still another 100 away. And all I wanted to do is sort of look at the guys and just let them know that, you know, we're in with a big show and you know, to hang in there.
And there's the 100 for Justin Langer. His fourth in Test cricket and second against Pakistan.
I'd say it's about the only time in my career, it might sound like a crazy thing to say, but I didn't really think about my 100 until I was on 99. And I was so intent on watching the scoreboard or watching the time as Gilly was doing. The 100 was almost irrelevant.
A very special cricketer, certainly Justin Langer, and his partner down the other end. Well, we're going to see a lot of him over the years. He's a wonderful, aggressive player. But it was a great performance. It's the fourth highest total achieved to win a match in the history of Test match cricket. That's how significant that partnership was.
And that is it. That is the winning run. Adam Gilchrist is telling Warne to get down the other end. Warne had plenty of hands in the victory with his bowling. The Australians have pulled off what I think is one of the finest victories I've ever seen in Test cricket. Down and out yesterday, 5 for 126. And two men batted almost the whole of the final day up to the point where the winning runs were hit. Adam Gilchrist, 149 not out. Justin Langer, 127. Superb performance.
Many memorable moments in the game are not actually moments at all. They take hours and sometimes days to unfold. But this next one is a moment. It created a sensation at the time and has been talked about ever since. It belonged to Shane Warne.
Well, life was a real struggle for England in 1993. The Australians went up to Old Trafford and they made 289 on rather a dicey pitch. Mark Taylor got a very good 100 and it was great to see. And then the England side went along okay until Atherton was out for 71. In came Mike Gatting. Much more important, on came Shane Warne. 1 for 80 here at Old Trafford. Shane Warne is to come on at the Warwick Road end.
The first ball on English soil for Shane Warne just changed his life.
I'm staying at the top mark. It's my first ball. I'm a bit nervous because I haven't played against England before and it means so much, Australia versus England.
They bowled to an orthodox field for a start, just a slip.
I come in to bowl and I generally just want to start a normal spell. I just bowl a few leg breaks to get myself into a bit of rhythm, bit of momentum, get into the feel of the game.
First ball in Test cricket in England for Shane Warne.
So I've come in to bowl, let go of the delivery, feels pretty good out the hand.
And he's done it. He started off with the most beautiful delivery.
It drifted in, and it dipped, and then it kicked and hit the top of the off stump. Now, I mean, what more can you do? Because of the dip, the batsman was wrong-footed in terms of the ball's length. Because of the furious work on the ball, it drifted in, so he was wrong-footed because of the line of the ball. And then because of that spin on the ball again, it really did rip and hit the top of off stump. I mean, the perfect delivery, and it will be the ball forever.
Well, some people said it drifted 2 feet towards the leg stump and outside it, and then it spun back 2 feet. That's not true. It was around about 9 inches each way, and it just clipped the top of the bail. It was absolutely magnificent.
It was one of those things that just happened, and watching Healy's reaction behind the stumps, and it was just an enormous feeling, and it's pretty hard to describe how good it felt to do it.
Gatting has absolutely no idea what has happened to it. He still doesn't know.
Mike Gatting stood there stunned. He thought I'd hit the bails off with my gloves or something suspicious had happened. Luckily, I held my mouth. I had eye contact with him as I was running past him. I was about to say something and didn't, and he just had no idea.
Kenny Palmer just gave him a raised eyebrow and a little nod, and that's all it needed.
And it's not until later, until I have a look at the replay, I realised how far it actually turned. I thought it was just a leg break that turned a little bit.
Well, that has turned about 2.5 feet. Gatting can't believe his eyes. What a start for Shane Warne.
We saw Warne bowl that type of delivery in New Zealand. He was spinning the ball so far in New Zealand that he was missing the bat by 6 inches. So we had to move his line outside leg, and that's where he started to do that, and sometimes around the wicket. So I'd gotten used to those sorts of the drifting ball outside leg and coming back to off, but to do it first ball, freakish.
sitting in the pub in 20 years' time, and instead of turning that far, it would have turned that far. And I suppose even when I'm 75, it would have turned even further. Yeah, it was probably my favourite delivery I've ever bowled.
Something everyone forgets, though, is that shortly after that, with only 4 more runs added, Warne bowled an equally good delivery to Robin Smith and had him caught it slip by Taylor. It's never thought of these days.
For all of the past decade, the name Waugh has been prominent in Australian cricket. The twins, Steve and Mark. So different, yet so similar, were never more twin-like than when they established a new batting record in a Sheffield Shield game in Perth in 1990.
The twins already had an unbroken partnership of 238 when they walked to the wicket this morning, but really it was only the beginning.
I really went out there with a game plan to keep the ball on the ground and concentrate hard, and we talked about it the night before the game, how to play against the West Australian bowlers, not to play anything too wide and make them bowl to us, and I think it worked pretty well.
That's a magnificent shot again. 350 partnership. Sensational batting by the Waugh brothers.
I've only scored 120 runs in about 8 digs before this, but yeah, it was nice to get a few runs. It's always difficult over here. Wicket's different against good high-class bowling, but yesterday, once we got going, the runs started to flow.
As Mark Waugh goes very high, very long. That's a big hit.
We got the feeling in the change room that they were never going to get out. So it was just a matter of continually watching the shot play and then just clapping the milestones as they went past. But you just got that feeling that even when they were about 50 or 60 not out, that they just looked very, very set.
When Mark brought up his 150, he became only the 10th Australian batsman to score 3,000 runs in a calendar year. They scored their runs effortlessly.
We just sat there and thought, they're on 140. If we wait 10 minutes, one of them will be 150. So we just sort of waited there. There it is. Clap. Wait 10 minutes. Next guy will make the milestone as well. So monotonous is not the right word, but it almost got to a stage where we just knew it was going to happen.
I suspect every now and again when twins get together, there's a bit of competition there, and I suspect that on this occasion there was a bit of competition there, and they were just going to bat and bat and bat, and for as long as it took for that partnership to get broken up.
There was no sign of fatigue, and when the 400 partnership came up, they'd broken the Australian record for a 5th wicket stand. 6 runs later, the world 5th wicket stand was theirs. Then a double century apiece, but still they went on, achieving their highest individual scores, and then with the stand at 463, the highest ever Australian batting partnership. Finally, with the New South Wales score at a massive 601, partnership worth 464, a declaration. Mark Waugh not out 229, Stephen Waugh not out 216.
The scoring rate was very quick, and I remember Greg Matthews, who was next in, putting the pads on, and he had the pads on ready to go in, and I remember turning to him at one stage and saying, well, you might as well take those off. And he said, no, I'm not taking these off. And I said, mate, you're not going to need those pads because you won't be batting today. And this was just after lunch, I think. And he said, well, I'm not quite as confident as you. I'm going to leave these on. And what's more, if I don't need to wear these pads out in the middle, I'll wear them out tonight if we go out and have a meal and a drink somewhere. So sure enough, the boys batted right through the day, 464-run partnership.
They've come in and everyone's just over the moon. It was tremendous to watch. And one of the first things Mark said was, looking forward to seeing you in your pads tonight, mate. So I wore my pads out that night. It was good for a laugh. It was good PR for the family.
I remember him having his denim pants on with this brown suede front on these denim jeans with 2 white cricket pads on. So it wasn't a great look, but I'm sure it wouldn't have worried Mo too much.
Over the years, we've seen some great players come out of the West Indies. Names like Sir Garfield Sobers, Vivian Richards, Clive Lloyd and Wesley Hall come to mind. More recently, another Caribbean superstar has made his mark, cementing his reputation in scoring a spectacular first Test century at the SCG.
Well, straight away he's hit a beautiful shot into the gap at mid-wicket. What a start by Lara. That is a magical clip away off his toes there.
The innings I remember the most was the 277 at the SCG, which I think may have been his first Test century. And that's one of the best Test innings that I've seen.
We came to Sydney, I think with a 1-0 lead in the series, knowing that the West Indies don't like playing in Sydney. They don't like the slow wickets, they don't like the spin bowlers, and we thought, wow, what an opportunity. If we can take them here and lead 2-0 in the series, we might be able to win this series. I remember we made about 500 in the first innings ourselves, won the toss, made 500, so everything was set up for us, and then out came Brian Lara and he just took it away like that.
Yeah.
There it is. Great moment. He's a very, very good young player. Much appreciated by his teammates, and I can guarantee you, as mentioned, there will be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people around the Caribbean who will be delighted Brian Lara has made his first Test match century.
We would have had a very firm plan how to get Lara out, I'm sure, as all Australian teams do go into games, but nothing worked that day. The thing I remember about that innings was just the power and the placement and just the relentlessness of his shots. He just wasn't giving us anything, no chances. The conditions weren't great for our bowlers. The ball was a bit wet, but that I don't think was a real factor. He was just awesome. Even on a dry day, he would have been right on fire.
He was going for the pull shot there and played it beautifully, straight down into the ground, past border and into the fence for 4. So that's his 17th boundary. Oh, good shot.
I mean, he was a very dangerous player. Saw him play a couple of years earlier in the West Indies, not for the West Indies, but for a Trinidad side. Knew he was a very talented player, but never exactly sure how he'll handle himself at international level. But he showed us here in Sydney. He absolutely smashed us.
Just like that.
Has been a pure joy to watch.
What about that? Boy, do you think he didn't give that something?
I think I bowled 69 overs, 2 for 1,000, got belted, of which Brian scored 277. But to this day, on 196, he sort of plomped forward and tried to reef me across the line, hit him on the ankle. It was absolute salmon trout. And Darryl Hare, the umpire, he was that used to it going to the boundary. He just turned looking to the boundary and, no, not out. And I think to this day he was still out. And yeah, Prince scored 277, Matthews 2 for 1,000, and unfortunately that was the end of my Test career.
Has he got a bat on it? That's the question. Brian Lara didn't give the umpire much opportunity to signal byes there. When he got about 5 metres from the crease, he started waving his bat to the West Indies crowd. Not only a very fine batsman, but also a very smart one.
That was good work, and it's a great double 100.
And great shot. Magnificent shot. The ball, you must remember, is spinning away towards the slip. He's gone down the wicket and just closed the face on it and really hit it right off the meat of that bat of his, straight between the two fieldsmen.
If you were hitting the ball in the air all the time, trying to hit sixes, sooner or later you'll miss-hit one and you'll get caught. That was the thing that amazed me about Lara. He just hit everything into the gaps, played magnificently, and really the only way the Australians were going to get him out was run him out, which is exactly what happened.
He's 23 short of 300 runs. Yeah. Oops, he's in trouble. He's back. He's gone. What a tragic end. Got sent back, but wrong-footed. A good throw, a good take. The end of a fine, fine innings. Brian Lara run out for 277.
Well, after making 277 runs, you don't usually find a batsman being disappointed, but I'm sure Brian Lara certainly is disappointed of the fact that he was run out in such a manner. It was a brilliant innings. Couldn't have asked so much more than what he did. Got to the wicket with West Indies in trouble, and he certainly played very, very well. For such a young man, couldn't have asked for anything more.
A super ovation, a standing ovation from commentators, spectators, scorers. The Australian players, the end of one of the all-time great knocks at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Brian Lara unfortunately run out. A tragic way to end a great innings.
Not all the great memorable performances have been in the Test arena. Whilst he has played Test matches, one Australian player has carved out a reputation as the best in the world in the one-day arena. Often when matches seem lost, Michael Bevan carried his team to victory, but never more thrillingly than at the SCG in 1996.
There'll be a chance if he hits it. He hits it, he's gone.
Oh, what a catch. That is brilliant, Phil Simmons. And that's a poor shot from Stuart Law.
Yes, I'll never forget that match because it really did seem another one of those games that Australia were going to lose by quite a long margin. They lost 4 wickets for very little.
Went from bad to worse, really. I came out at 4 for 30 odd, and then another couple of wickets tumbled.
It's in the air and he's gone. Oh, he's bowled him. Well, he tried to...
He went from 4 for 30 odd to 6 for 38 and then 7 for 70 odd. And Paul Rifle took a partnership on with Bevo.
In the air and 4. That is beautifully played. And that's nicely played. That'll go for 4 as well. He's hit that one well, beautifully struck. It's racing between the two fielders, into the fence for 4.
You could see the calculator in his mind working. A little glance up to the scoreboard every now and again, just keeping in mind how many balls there were to come and how many runs were needed. And always just there. It's been one of the sources of frustration for me. I've often wondered why he keeps it quite so close, but it's all to do, I'm sure, with taking as few risks as you possibly can and at the same time making sure you're in touch.
Sweep, and he gets it fine, beautifully played. Could go all the way, the man's coming around from backward square leg. It's a magnificent 50 for Michael Bevan.
Especially in the later overs, that's when the cat and mouse game starts. You're really trying to pick the bowlers that you think that you're the best chance of scoring the runs off, trying to farm the strike, I suppose, so you're protecting certain batsmen as well. So those last overs were very much like that until the last over. And looking back now, I can't even remember how many runs we needed off that last over.
Where's that? He's gone! Good catch at mid-wickets!
When we got close, I still think deep down we believed we weren't going to get there.
He's gone!
Dan McGrath is not known for his batting, but he has such great confidence.
Well, he was pretty relaxed when he came out. I think he knew that it was a tough situation, but you know, I don't think. I mean, it obviously, you know, didn't get to him, and it was just trying to work out how we could juggle the strike so we could get the runs needed, really. And Roger Harper bowled the last over, which was a good thing from our perspective because it just meant that it gave us probably a little bit more leeway or latitude for when the new batsman came in.
4 runs for victory, 2 balls remaining. And what an innings by Michael Bevan. Great support from Rifle and Healy. But this young man's carried all before him, Michael Bevan, this summer in the one-day games. Hasn't been out yet. And the crowd are chanting, giving him tremendous support.
I know on the second last ball that Roger Harper bowled a very good ball for a spinner in a one-day match. He fired in at the leg stump, a Yorker, and there wasn't actually anything I could do with that ball. And it was a case of like, should I leave it to Glenn to get the runs or should I get the runs myself? So after playing a dot ball out and scoring no runs off it, I kind of thought, well, if he does get it right again, then it might be real tough to score the 4 we need.
The men will go back inside the circle, they're right on the line.
What was going through my mind, I was trying to work out where was the safest place I could hit a 4 and my best chance of hitting a 4. I had three options. I had over cover, where I would have to step back and give myself room and try and slash it over cover. The other area was over mid-wicket, and that way I'd just have to swing across the line of an off-spinner. I didn't really see that as being a safe shot. And then the other area was straight, and that was just straight back over the umpire's head.
He'll probably pitch it in towards the leg stump and the full. It's down, it goes 4! to Australia. What an effort. What a stroke. It's Michael Bevan's evening at the Sydney Cricket Ground. What a shot under pressure.
I don't really show that emotion, to tell you the truth, as a general rule anyway, so you know, a situation like that was just, I guess it was amazing for me.
The crowd is going mad at the Sydney Cricket Ground, and why not?
We'd won a one-day game. It wasn't a final or anything like that. We'd won a one-day game that we should never have won. So that's always probably one of the greatest feelings you can have in any sport, I think, to win a game that you're never in and you never should win.
As a result of what he did in that match, he became known as the finisher in Australian cricket because of his incredible ability to get his team, no matter what the circumstance, right up to the point where they can win the match.
You've seen one of the all-time great one-day innings from a young man who's fought his way back into the Australian side, and a full house goes berserk.
Although Bevan will be remembered as a one-day batting specialist, he did trouble the West Indies in a test.
Oh, he's had to go that one, and that'll go to the fence for 4 like a rocket. Finding the gap nicely. And Bevan's about to have a go now. Smashes that one down the ground for 4. There he goes, and that's it. Back go the stumps. So Glenn McGrath is out-bowled, and Bevan down the non-striker's end, not out 85. Well, he'd be pretty disappointed that he wasn't able to kick on and make his 100. But then again, perhaps he left that little flurry of his a little bit too late.
They picked Michael as the second spinner, which was slightly a controversial move because Michael at that stage was considered mainly a batsman who bowled a bit of left-arm, unorthodox type left-arm Chinaman bowling. So it was a bit of a controversial decision. And then we lost the toss. That was a real blow to me. I wanted to win the toss badly and bat.
Got him! That's a beautiful catch. What a catcher. Mark Taylor is one of the best of all time.
It was quite a different role for me, and I was fairly nervous going into the test because I had no idea how they would come out for me. I'd only been a part-time bowler up until that point of time.
And he's not being picked either. He's got another one with the googly, and that was an excellent catch by Mark Taylor. He was down to that very quickly.
I think the good thing about Tubby was he had a knack of knowing when to bring a bowler on, especially someone like me, a left-arm leg spinner who bowled some good balls and some ordinary balls.
I always had a lot of confidence in Bevo's bowling. I often knew he was going to bowl rubbish, but he was the sort of guy who could get wickets bowling rubbish. And he'd probably hate me for saying that, but I've seen Bevo bowl beautifully at times and not get anyone out because they actually treat him as a frontline spin bowler. He often took his most wickets when he bowled 1 or 2 half-trackers and over, and they thought, well, all I've got to do with this bloke is wait for the half-tracker and I'll hit a boundary. But then all of a sudden he bowled a good one and you just drop your guard a fraction and bang, he's got you out. That was the sort of bowler that Bevo was.
God, I can't believe it. He's chipped it straight to mid-wicket. Almost the way he got out in Sydney and here in the first innings, just chipping the ball on the up. A soft dismissal again, and a disappointing one for the West Indies and Jimmy Adams.
I was bowling my wrong and pretty well at that stage. Probably I was bowling my wrong and better than my stock leg spin delivery. And so I don't think that there were too many batsmen that when I bowled could actually pick the wrong. And now when you're a leg spin bowler and they're not picking you wrong, and I mean that gives you a tremendous amount of confidence.
It's in the air and it should be caught. It's caught.
He had his loop and bounce off the wicket all going, and the West Indies just couldn't read him. He was a brilliant wrong in which the West Indies couldn't pick. The leg spinner, the left-hand leg spinner, threatened to spin a lot more than it did, and that meant they got some outside edges. And you know, we were all in good catching form. That match in Adelaide where he got 10 wickets, he just landed it on the spot. The wrong would turn, the leg spinner wouldn't, and it'd get the outside edge, and Tubby or I would catch it. So it was great, and his form was great in that tour. And then in a South African tour where he went to, he went through a little golden patch with the ball.
That's out, straight to the Australian captain off the edge of the bat. Junior Murray has fallen, and 5 wickets to Michael Bevan. Terrific performance from Bevan.
To tell you the truth, I really didn't want to be a bowler, and I was just sort of making my way in the team and trying to make sure I cemented a position. So I guess it was a way to cement a position, but I really wasn't comfortable in that role. And looking back now, if I had my time again, I think I would have changed my attitude a little bit towards it, because really I was bowling quite well at that stage, and if I had have maybe been not so stubborn about it and just enjoyed the process of what happened and how I got the wickets and just kept bowling and kept working at my game, then maybe I probably would have enjoyed that period a little bit more. But so the 10 wickets was a great highlight, but I mean, scoring runs at that time and now is probably where it's at for me.
So 9 wickets for the match for Michael Bevan. Off the back of the bat, that's out, and that's it. Australia retains the Frank Worrell Trophy. They won their 9th series against the West Indies. Patterson Thompson is out. Michael Bevan gets his 10th wicket of the game. He's had a terrific game. He's come in under a cloud, and he walks away the hero at the Adelaide Oval. 10 wickets in the match, 85 not out, and a very excited Australian team. Australia retains the Frank Worrell Trophy.
Greg Chappell has a reputation for being one of the most elegant batsmen of the modern era. The former Australian captain was a prolific run-getter and an outstanding fieldsman. On his Test debut, he made a century. And when he walked out for the last time in 1984, he undoubtedly had milestones on his mind.
Well, there was a lot of flair and a great deal of nostalgia attached to that match in 1984. Greg Chappell made the runs and then retired from the game. Dennis Lillee retired from the game. And on top of that, Rodney Marsh retired from Test match cricket. The majestic innings Greg Chappell played to pass Bradman's Test aggregate record was something for everyone to savour when they were at the ground or watching on television, and he batted then, as he did so often for Australia around the world.
Greg, there's a rumour going around that you're retiring from Test cricket, is that correct?
Yes, I informed Phil Ridings this morning that I'll be retiring from Test cricket at the end of this game, or international cricket. I won't be available for the one-day internationals either.
Any particular reason?
Well, I think we all know when the day has come, and I found it fairly hard in the last few weeks to really get motivated and get my mind on the job. And I think from that point of view, not going to the West Indies is pointless playing in the one-day games. It's a chance for somebody else to be given an opportunity, and so I decided to make that decision based on that.
Quite an incredible scene. Greg Chappell cheered all the way up to the middle. Everyone off their backside standing up, cheering him out to the middle. And this is last Test match.
He needed 69 runs to beat Don Bradman, or Sir Donald Bradman, when he started that game. And he announced his retirement before the game. And, that said something to me straight away.
It's in the air, but safe. And will beat Kazim away to the boundary. Greg Chappell's first boundary, and Australia moved to 2 for 75.
I'd struggled a bit during the year. I batted down the order a bit during that season. Kim Hughes was captain in that series, and I spoke to Kim before the Test match here. I knew it was going to be my last Test match. I hadn't announced it to anyone else at that stage, but I asked him if I could bat up the order, bat in a normal position, which he was quite happy for me to do. And
that's going to beat Ozen and Kadir over the boundary road.
It was fairly obvious once I started to bat in the first innings. Pakistan hadn't made a particularly big score, and I knew that if we could get a reasonable lead, we'd probably only bat once in the game. So I felt if I was going to do something, then it had to be in the first innings. And I can remember going out to bat. It must have been before lunch, I think, perhaps half an hour or so before lunch. And Abdul Kadir was bowling. He was bowling quite well. There was a bit of turn in the wicket, and I would have looked pretty ordinary for a lot of that time because I didn't feel too comfortable, but I was just determined to make sure I got a start.
He said I couldn't drag the concentration up like I used to be able to do it, and he said I knew there was only one way I could do it, and that was to say publicly that this is my last Test match. He said then I knew in my own mind I really only had one more innings to make those 69 runs.
Shot. Beautiful shot.
You could tell just the way Greg approached most things that he set himself for something special. He knew it was going to be his last Test match. He'd set himself for a big last game. There was no question about that.
Badia. And the misfield there by Salim at backward point gives Greg Chappell his half century.
Relief in the crowd. That's one milestone passed. Greg Chappell's 32nd half-century in Test match cricket.
The actual runs that took him past Bradman came from an overthrow, and I think it was Mohsin Khan who fired the ball. And as Greg ran down for the third, knowing that he was going to get a fourth from this overthrow, he actually did a bit of a wide turn, and he actually taps Mohsin Khan on the backside just as a thank you very much, mate, as he goes off for the fourth run, which, you know, I mean, for a guy who had this ability to concentrate like hell, this was quite an amazing deviation for Greg to actually take this wide turn and tap him on the backside and say thanks very much, mate, for your help.
Now it's his job to make these next 4 runs for Greg Chappell as difficult as possible to get.
Sarfraz to Chappell again. Quick single. In comes Mohsin. He'll shy the stumps. Chappell's home. And they're overthrows. This could be it. Chappell turning for the second. He'll be back for the third. Hughes is flying. He'll come back for the fourth, and this run makes Greg Chappell the most prolific scorer of runs in the history of cricket in Australia. 18,000 people rise to their feet and cheer one of the greatest batsmen of all time.
Works Madasta, there's the jump for the side.
And they're the two. Kasim picks up. Chappell comes back for the second. And he has now scored 7,000 runs in Test cricket. He's the first Australian batsman to reach that target and becomes the 6th batsman in the history of the game to have scored 7,000 runs.
Once Greg got 50, 100, you could almost bet money on him making 100.
Shot, beautiful stroke. What a marvellous way to bring up 100 with the classic cover drive we've seen so often over the years from this great player. His wife Judy is so pleased. She knows this is his last international game of cricket for Australia. A century to Greg Chappell.
And what a magic moment for us all. And only the people here at the Sydney Cricket Ground, at the viewers throughout the Nine Network, I'm sure there's a tear in Judy's eye there because there's a few people around this ground with a lump in their throat. What a magnificent effort from one of Australia's all-time greats. The crowd is standing here at the Sydney Cricket Ground. It's a magic moment for us all, and particularly for Greg Chappell.
There was no real feeling of euphoria, and it certainly wasn't in that game. It was more of relief that having sort of gone that far and got that far, to finish it off and to sort of round off my cricket career in an even sort of way was, as I say, was more about satisfaction than anything else, and being involved in a successful team effort, obviously, it was an important part of that as well.
Chappell picking that hook shot up, and a couple of bounces over the boundary.
Got that through. The outfield is quicker over there. It's going downhill. 4 more to Chappell. 150 up for Greg Chappell.
I guess the biggest thrill probably for all of us was the fact that Dad was there. I mean, Dad and Mum were there. And when you know how much that Gene and Martin actually gave up to give us the best opportunity possible, the three of us, to play at that level, then I guess when something special like that happens and they're actually there to see it, then that's your way of thinking, well, you know, I have repaid them for all those things that they did for us when we were young.
That's close. Yes, indeed. Kept a bit low, played across it, and I think it would have hit about middle and leg. And the whole crowd rises now to Greg Chappell. 182 in his last Test match innings. He made 108 in his first Test match innings in Perth, 182 in his last Test match innings at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Former Australian captain, one of the greatest players ever to wear the baggy green cap and to grace the cricket field on behalf of this country.
It's not uncommon for Test matches to be won by huge margins, hundreds of runs, 8, 9 or 10 wickets. Very few go right down to the wire. There were Australia's 2 tied tests, one against India, the other against the West Indies. There was also a game that became known as the closest test in history.
Well, that's got to be out. Yes, he's got him, LBW.
And that's gone. That was a loud nick.
Shouts of catch it. Desmond Haynes has done it. Border walks. He doesn't even wait for the decision. And it's gone onto the stumps. Big shout then he's been given.
We still needed to make 180 odd, and that was still quite a big score for that game. It wasn't a big scoring Test match, so we had our work cut out, but we were never in the hunt really. I think we were 8 for 80 at one stage in Maplaya, so we needed 100 runs with 2 wickets left, so we were right out of the game.
It's Tim May's birthday today. It's not quite the situation that he would have liked to have been in at the start of the day. Very much at the moment it looks as though if anyone's going to be cracking champagne this evening, it's more likely to be the West Indies.
There were 2 wickets left when I went out to bat, and I think we needed another 80 odd. And Justin Lang was in, and it was his first test, and I think he was about 30 or something not out, and he seemed to be hitting the ball pretty well.
It's going to get 3 for it.
I think I only made 6 in the first innings, but I felt good, so I actually walked out there and feeling reasonably confident and relaxed. And when you're 2 wickets away and you need 80 to win, you haven't got a great deal to lose.
There's going to be 4 runs for Tim May. That's a big hit. That's going high and wide. That's 4. That brings up the 50 for Justin Langer, and what a beauty.
I think Justin and I sort of took the score on to about 40 or 40 to go, and then Justin got out, and I thought, we're in a bit of strife here. And then I looked up and saw Craig McDermott come out, and I thought, we're in a lot of strife here. We're in more than a lot of strife.
As Craig McDermott makes his way to the wicket, excited because Australia, I guess, have got a swim chance now of winning this match. Walsh has not been used since tea. Also available. Big shout. Not out.
Yeah. He beats mid off. Curtly Ambrose. McDermott's looking for 3 and gets them. It's well run. It's 9 for 162.
We'd said to each other, whatever you do, don't look at the scoreboard and just keep playing every ball on its merits, and if they're there, they'll come. But if we look at the scoreboard, then we might freeze up a bit. So we knew we were edging closer just because of the general crowd reaction and all that sort of stuff, but we weren't quite sure how close we were, but I must admit, with about an over before, I had a little sneak up at the scoreboard and thought, ooh, we are close here.
It's in the air, but Desmond Haynes is too far back, and the midfield brings another run. 9 for 177.
You always think it's nerve-wracking for the people out in the field, but I think it's worse for the other players watching from afar. I mean, you've had your chance, you've been dismissed, and you're up there, and you just nothing you can do about it but watch and bite your nails and play with your worry ball and hope the decision goes the right way. But yeah, probably up until the last 15, 20 runs, you're basically expecting the last wicket to fall, and we don't really deserve to win because we had our opportunities. The batsmen should have done the job, but we didn't. Then all of a sudden, as you get closer, you start thinking, the impossible might happen. So you do get your hopes up very highly.
It's a driven shot. There'll be at least 3 here. Kenneth Benjamin hobbling along after the ball. He'll just get it. 3 runs to Tim May. 6 runs required for Australia. And the tension is really rising here.
Sporting people are very superstitious, and whether they like to admit it or not, every run we got closer, you wanted to move, but you couldn't move because if you moved, you'd break the spell type thing. So everyone was just glued to their seats and not move, and someone would get up to go get a drink or go to the toilet at the end of the over, and like 10 other blokes or 9 other blokes would push them back to their seat. Just wait, like no one's moving.
He's driven it, it's in the air. Richie Richardson dives, he can't get to it, and Australia survive. Short one again, it's in the air, but Desmond Haynes is in the wrong position. Will they go back for the tying run? No, they don't. 184, 1 run away from a tie.
We only need 2 runs to win, or 1 run to tie, and even a tie would have meant we couldn't have lost the series.
Oh, he's tried to avoid it, it's hit the bat, then he's gone, and the Test match has been won by 1 run. I can't believe it. The West Indians are delighted. Craig McDermott is so disappointed. It's been a magnificent effort by both sides here today. Courtney Walsh is absolutely delighted. The Australian dressing room will be decimated.
I've been in a few sort of dressing rooms where we've lost cricket matches and it's, like a mortuary, and everyone's really down the dumps. But that particular one, we knew we'd had a great opportunity to beat the West Indies in a Test series, and to go sort of agonisingly close, and a little bit of a controversial decision to end the match just made a real tough pill to swallow.
And the West Indian players have had so much frustration today trying to bowl the Australians out for less than 185 runs. They've done it by exactly 1 run.
For bowlers, nothing can compare with taking a Test hat-trick. There have been several taken by Australian bowlers over the past few years, and without exception, they've been enjoyed by cricketer and fan alike.
Yeah, I think it was about over 3 days, over 3 overs, over 2 innings. So it was a pretty interesting one. I reckon there'd be one better point to taking a hat-trick, just actually knowing at the time that it was a hat-trick. The first wicket in the hat-trick was the last ball of, I think, my 36th over in the first innings.
And there we go.
The first ball of my 37th, which was the close of innings.
And that's out. And that's the end of the innings. And Merv Hughes has now picked up his 5th wicket of the innings.
And then the first ball of my first over in the second innings, which was a day and a half later or something. So it was just, it was unbelievable. We got onto the ground and Jeff Lawson had just been hit.
Oh, and that's hit him a nasty blow. In fact, it's gone onto the stumps, I think, the ball. But, that's hit him a nasty blow.
Jeff Lawson had just been felled by a bouncer and got a very, very badly broken jaw. And in the dressing rooms, we were pretty pumped. We had to go out there and bowl the last few overs of the day, I think it was, at the West Indian openers.
Bob Simpson came up and said, listen, 5 overs to bowl, you're going to bowl 3 of them. Let's get out there, let's get the ball up there in line and length, we might get a couple of wickets. All right, yeah. Alan Border came up and said, listen, big fella, you're going to start. And at that time, I think he called me Gronk because he reckons I look like a caveman. So, Gronk, you're going to start. I want you to get that ball in the corridor of uncertainty. And I'm sitting there thinking, corridor of uncertainty, where's that? I've got no idea. Like, it's 10 years on, I've still got no idea. And then Craig McDermott was 12th man, fielding for Jeff Lawson. As we were walking onto the ground, I was thinking, line and length, corridor of uncertainty. Where is that? And McDermott came up and put his arm around me and said, what are you going to do here? I said, I'm not sure. He said, should bounce the shit out of him. Ah, good idea.
And Merv was as fired up as I've ever seen him. And he was, keen to sort of exact some revenge for Jeff Lawson being struck. And so I can remember him sort of just getting really pumped up for this first delivery of the second innings. I think everyone expected a searing bouncer. Probably Gordon Greenidge was probably thinking that as well, because you could feel the atmosphere. It was pretty tense as a result of Jeff being hit and us going out there to have a dash at him in these last few overs. So I think he outfoxed everyone. I think most of us would have been ducking and weaving, just knowing, with Merv's eyes spinning, steaming in to bowl that first ball, that it would be a bouncer.
Hughes on a hat-trick. And he's got it. Merv Hughes, a hat-trick. What a performance. It looked absolutely plumb. Merv Hughes is struck. What a moment for him.
Australian team, we were just pumped up, and to get rid of a batsman of Greenidge's capabilities and status was just huge, and I might have gone over the top looking at footage. I must admit I could have gone way over the top.
He gave Gordon a bit of a send-off, Gordon Greenidge. Gordon didn't want to go. I don't know whether he stunned it or he disagreed with the decision, but he was hanging around like a bad smell, and so Merv just told him exactly where the pavilion was and got stuck into him a bit, and there was some, let's say, some lingering animosity from that particular incident for a little while. It was a pretty sort of electric moment when we went into their rooms after the game, after the day's play, and Merv and Gordon were there, and I don't think either were speaking to each other, and everyone felt pretty uncomfortable with the whole scene, but these things happen, and you look back on that and have a bit of a laugh about it.
When we got Greenidge out, we thought, if we get another one here, the big fella's got a hat-trick, and the next ball I bowled to Richie Richardson, and it would have been 2 foot outside off stump, I suppose, because I was a little bit nervous because I thought I was on a hat-trick at that stage, and he sort of played and missed, and it was a half shout, bad luck, but at the start of my next over, Tony Delamade bowled the second over. At the start of my next over, I was walking up and Steve Waugh came up from slip and got my hat and my jumper and just said, I think you got a hat-trick. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I'm pretty sure. Did you get Patrick Patterson? And I started thinking about it. I said, no, I don't think so. And he said, oh yeah, we just heard it on the PA system, so you've got one. And then my next 2 overs were just absolutely trite because I was thinking, I'm going to test hat-trick. I was pretty excited with that.
So 6 down for 91. Warren continuing.
No bowler ever forgets a hat-trick if he's lucky enough to get one. I was lucky enough to get one Boxing Day Test match again, 1994. It was against England, and the first victim, I suppose, was Phil de Freitas. So I bowled the ball as one of those ones that hits something in the wicket and goes straight.
Oh, and they hit the pad. Yes, he's got him. That's out.
De Freitas is out. LBW, everyone jumps around and goes, well bowled, what was that one out the front of the hand? Oh, yeah, that's the one, just bowled straight, through the fingers, goes straight on, doesn't turn, oh, right, yeah.
Oh, and they hit the pad, yes, he's got him, that's out, LBW. That hit the
You don't tell him it wasn't the leg break that didn't turn, you don't tell him that though. But that was the first one. Well, De Freitas was gone, and in came my good friend Darren Gough, and he took centre, I'm at the top mark, shining the old ball up, and he's got a bit of looks up, bit of a smirk on his face. He was a real goer and was obviously going to have a bit of a try and whack me around with a bat. So I think what to bowl. I decided I'm going to bowl a leg break. Anyway, came into bowl, curves in the air a little bit, spins a little bit.
Oh, and that's out, caught behind. Yes, he's got him, fast ball.
Goughy was good enough to nick it, and Heels took a very, very good catch behind the stump. So there was 2 gone, and I was on a hat-trick. So what do I do?
Normally you don't really truly believe deep down that you're going to get the hat-trick, or I don't anyway. This time it's Devon Malcolm walking in the bat, and we thought, oh, we're a chance here.
So I go and see my old friend Damien Fleming, who was standing at mid-off. He had got a hat-trick in his first test in 1994 in Pakistan. So I said, Flem, what do you do? I've been on a hat-trick, I've never got one, what do you do? And he said, well, just picture what you want to do, and then just go and do it.
I think we all counselled him a little bit. We all had an idea of what he should bowl, because by that stage, Shane had played about 3 or 4 years of Test match cricket and was doing very well. And we knew the way he was bowling, he was going to have it all over the pomp. So out comes Devon Malcolm, who's, I'm sure Devon wouldn't mind me saying, is not the greatest batsman of all time. And here was a chance for Shane Warne to take a hat-trick at the MCG in front of his home crowd. Beautiful day, good crowd in, perfect opportunity, and Devon Malcolm on strike. Like, you don't get a better opportunity. So we're all saying, Warnie, bowl your flipper. People were saying, no, I think I said, just bowl a leg spinner to him. Someone said bowl a wrong, and there was all sorts of people saying what he should bowl.
Here we go. Fleming took the last one. Merv Hughes before him.
To Shane Warne, a great moment in his career. What a catch by David Boone.
That was just fantastic. We all ran around, hugged each other.
The Aussies are all around, and have a look at that. Fleming alongside Warne there.
And I was shaking, so I thought, geez, how good is this? Finally, I got a hat-trick, and touch wood, hopefully there's another one around the corner.
Hat-trick to Shane Warne, a great moment in his career.
Well, Glenn McGrath wrote the script for his hat-trick. He said the day before, I'd like Sherwin Campbell for $2.99, Brian Lara would be nice for $300. I don't know whether he's talking hat-tricks, but he just put those two together.
It was special for me because it was only my second year of commentary, and I was given a chance to be on commentary for Ball by Ball with Shane Warne, who was out injured, and he was one of our mates out trying to get a hat-trick.
That's out. That's 299 test wickets for McGrath, and that was a good one. Just short of a length to Sherwin Campbell. Tried to play the ball down the leg side, a bit of extra bounce, and maybe just a bit of seam, and a good healthy edge to Ricky Ponting at first slip.
Brian Lara got the wood on him at the moment. He's got a bit of an injury. He can sniff it, Pidge.
Gone! He's dropped him, it's out, he's out. First ball, Glenn McGrath, there's 300. The perfect scenario. Brian Lara came to the crease, Glenn McGrath right on the spot, pitched about middle and leg, went away a good thick outside edge, and Glenn McGrath's got 300 test wickets. Well bowled, absolute champion Glenn McGrath, beautifully bowled. He gets Brian Lara, first ball for 300 test wickets.
And out came Jimmy Adams, the West Indies captain, when Glenn McGrath a chance for a hat-trick.
Spare a thought for this man, Jimmy Adams, coming in to face Glenn McGrath on a hat-trick. He's just seen his opening batsman fall. He's just seen Brian Lara fall. And here he is facing a hat-trick. It's out! Got it! Glenn McGrath's got it! It's a leading edge, straight up in the air, and that's a hat-trick. Well, he wasn't on 300 test wickets for long, Glenn McGrath. A simple leading edge, Justin Langer the catcher, and that's 301.
Well, we'll just put 301. What an unbelievable scenes here at Perth. The crowd's going off. The Australian team's going off. Glenn McGrath can't believe it. It is all happening, as Bill Laurie would be saying.
And really, when he bowled the ball, I thought that was a rubbish delivery. It was aimed at his hip, it was down, or pretty much down the leg side. Jimmy got himself in an awkward position, spooned it up to bat pad where he was caught. And I think we all got very excited, and I know I got excited on the commentary. And then I looked at it and I thought, well, it wasn't a great delivery, but speaking to Glenn after the game, he said that was their plan, to get Jimmy Adams out. They felt that he stood very open, but by the time he actually faced up, he got very side on and made it difficult for him to score on the leg side. So the plan was to bowl him something on the hip because he would find it difficult to play. Sure enough, that's where Glenn bowled it, and that's where the catch went, and a hat-trick for Glenn McGrath.
McGrath's got an uncanny, confident knack of sort of starting to pick his marks, and against the top sides he targets either the captain or the threatening opening batsman, and so far it's worked well for him.
Glenn McGrath, 3 for 10 so far. He's heading down to his fine leg where he's going to field, and the crowd down there will go berserk.
Let's see the thumbs. Let's count how many times he puts the thumbs up to the crowd here, Tubbs. All right, there's one. It could be a few, and why wouldn't he enjoy it? Soak it up, Pidge. You've enjoyed it, mate. Great effort. 300 wickets, a hat-trick. Unbelievable stuff here at the Wacker.
This has been another presentation from Nine's Wide World of Sports.